Hey guys, we're going on live. Welcome to the show. Trichologist Lisa Akbari. Paging the hair doctor. Paging the hair doctor. Paging the hair doctor. Trichologist Lisa Akbari. Hello, and welcome to the show. Hi, I'm Trichologist Lisa Akbari, and for the next 60 seconds, I'm going to be your hair doctor. So, welcome. You're tuning in. Happy Sunday. This is so cool. It's a beautiful day, and it's Sunday. And this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. There is so much going on in our country, but you know what? God's got this. I know it seems crazy. It seems hard to believe, but God's got this. God's got it. He's got us, and He's watching, and He knows what's going on. So I just want us to just stop right now before we start the show and just take a moment to just reach out and just praise God and just thank God for being God all by Himself. And this is what I want to do on my show today. So however, hopefully we have people out there who feel the same way I do, that we need God to be there for us, and we need God to hear us, and just we need God to help us. So we just praise you, Father, in the name of Jesus, and we just thank you for being God all by yourself. And we thank you for just always being there. And I know that it seems horrible out here, Lord. You are there for us. And I know that we're not doing what we're supposed to do, but I know you're there. You said you'll never leave us nor forsake us. So before we go into the show today, with all this happening in our country, in our world, and on our land, I will turn to God. I will turn to Him, and I will plead with Him so that He will heal our land. So I ask you to join me. There are many challenges online, but this is the challenge. Are you going to join? Are we going to turn to a God so we can heal our land? Okay, it's Sunday, so yes, I just did a little preaching. No, I'm not a preacher, but you know what? I love the Lord, and I know for myself that God is good and that God is there for us. So I just ask you to just believe that same thing. We're going to be okay, you guys. We're going to be okay. This little place called Earth, this stopover, it's just a stopover. We got to decide what we're going to do while we're on this earth, because God is watching us. Let's pray for all the families who are just losing their family members. Let's just pray for them. And I just do. My heart goes out to, I heard the moms cry out today on television asking the moms who have lost their sons. They asked it to stop the violence. So I just wanted to start my Ask the Hair Doctor show. I know it's about hair, but I had to just say what I'm saying because I feel real strong about it. All right, everyone. All right, so we're going to start the show today. We're going to start with our review. Let's kind of review last week. I want to welcome everyone to the show. Thank you so much for joining me on Ask the Hair Doctor. As you know, I'm here every Sunday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I just welcome you to the show. Last week was a great show, because it's a pretty big deal for a lot of folks, and those of us who having birthdays and getting a year older, and have a few of our little friends showing up on our head, our little gray hairs. Yes. And those are grannies or whatever. I'm not a granny yet, but no worries. But so we talked about aging hair, and does our age make a difference in our hair, and how does it change our hair? And we it was a great show. We had many, many callers, and your questions were answered. That show was archived. It's right on my Lisa Akbari YouTube page. All you have to do is type in my name, Lisa Akbari. You can go right to it, and you'll be able to hear that show. But today we're going to talk about something that's a big deal. We talk a lot about this in our winter months and our transition weather months, but we're going to talk about it in the summer because there's a little bit of a spin on how all this happens with our hair and scalp in the summer. So today we're going to talk about hair and scalp dehydration. Wow. What is it? What causes it? What are the consequences of having dehydrated hair and scalp? How can we prevent this from happening? Does it have anything to do with what I put in my body? In other words, what I eat or what I drink? My phone lines are going to be open today. I'm going to get those questions answered at 901-535-9342, and that's 901-535-9342. Can vitamins help this hair and scalp dehydration? How to balance? Is protein the problem of the dehydration? Is it causing it? If I put protein on my hair, is there such thing as protein sensitive hair? That's what we want to know today. And how important is moisture, and how do I get it? So we're going to do that, and we're going to answer a few questions as well. Of course, I always have to go to my email box and get those questions. I get tons of them every single week. And then we're going to talk a bit about celebrity news. Apparently there is a not so new trend-making reoccurrence or resurgence. We're going to talk about this purchasing dead celebrities' hair. That's a big deal. Oh yeah, just a few weeks ago, a lock of David Bowie's hair was sold, and we're going to talk about what that went for. Wow, it was a lot. You won't believe it. So stay tuned for that. And then we're going to talk about some other things that you want to talk about as it relates to your hair and scalp. Remember, guys, make sure you visit me. So make sure you like me on Facebook. Go to my Facebook page, Akbari Hair Doctor. My YouTube page, Lisa Akbari. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Lisa Akbari. And then we want to talk about next week's topic, because that's going to be a big deal as well. Talking about working out and keeping a hairstyle, because a lot of folks, they work out, they're into it, trying to get their body together, and they just don't know what to do. They don't know how to help with their hair. And we don't always have to go into braids, okay? All right, because I have my fro, and that is my main staple. My main style. My chat room is open, so you have an opportunity to chat with me today as well. So just make sure that you tune in. Let's see if I can get all this stuff that's on my desktop arranged so that I can see the chat, and then I can see my screen. And it may not need to see this screen, because you know what? I'll start picking at my fro or touching my fro, because guys, I can't stand for my fro to be out of place. Is that not crazy? What's up with that, Lisa? And we have someone already here chatting with me. She said, "Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for all the hair techniques you have shared." This is Gail. Gail is one of my favorites. That's one of my fiber sisters. Okay. I said fiber, cyber. Did you hear me? Cyber, in my cyber family. Okay. She said they have helped my hair improve so much. Yay. Could you talk about knots? I have very tight coils, crochet needle, circumference. What did I see it? I can't. What is that, niece? Wait, let me come up with it. It says I have crochet needle. Right here.
Circumference.
Like, I know what it means. If I couldn't say, you know what, niece? If I couldn't pronounce the word, you're right. Demonstrate. Denise is a retired school teacher too. Circumference. I'm so sorry. I'm just not with it. She's like circling my head, as you guys see. Okay, it's like the circumference of the head. Well, you know what? We're going to talk about that as well today. And our phone lines are open at 901-535-9342. That's 901-535-9342. And so let's get right to it. Now, we talked about hair and scalp dehydration. Hair and scalp dehydration is a pretty big deal. Your moisture levels have to stay at a certain level. If your moisture levels are not, then your hair will begin to literally fall apart because of the substance that it's made of, which is called keratin, which is protein. But let's go, let's see. Okay. Now, so let's go back to, let's see what's the first question about hair and scalp dehydration. Okay, I got to get that one out of the way. We need this one. Okay. Like I told you guys, I have a very full screen, and I don't want to completely lose my my screen. I'm really laid back today. You guys can see that. I'm usually like really hyper, and today I'm just, it's kind of somber mood. We've got so much going on in our city, and guys, I know that God is with us, and it's just your heart. We just love each other. Our heart goes out. Our heart goes out to all these families. So just pray for me as I go through the show today. But again, someone did call in, and I didn't get to your phone call. So you can call back. My phone lines are open at 901-535-9342. That's 901-535-9342. Okay, I can do this show, and we're going to have a great show. Okay, hair and scalp dehydration. Let's go back to some of the notes here, because so many of you have those questions for me about it. But let's go to the phone lines, and then I'm going to get my chat, and then we're going to get back to our outline. Hello. Oops, did I get hello? And welcome to Ask the Hair Doctor. You have a question for me? I think we lost the caller. Okay. Yeah, I think we lost the caller. I think I'm having a bit of time also with, okay, there we go. Here with Lisa Akbari. Thank you, Nisi. Okay, so you said that it's just so much. You want to talk about knots. Now, are you speaking of those little fairy knots? Y'all call the little fairy knots, the little piece. Nisi's pointing to what you guys call the kitchen. No, I think she's talking about the webbing and the little knots that fall off the little balls on the end. Is that what you're speaking of, Gail? Just kind of let me know if that's what you're speaking of. Let me tell you where those come from. And part of that, it'll fall right in line with the show today, because part of those little knots on the ends of the hair, the little fairy knots that you got, she said yes. Okay, part of that, that comes from two things. Part of it deals with dehydration of the hair, but let me tell you what really happens and the way you can avoid that. Number one, you have to do two things. You have to make sure that you have a deep conditioning regimen. So you really need to deep condition your hair at least once every week. So every 7 days, you're deep conditioning. That's the number one thing that you have to do, because when you deep condition, like I said, it falls in line with all this hair dehydration. What you're going to do is you're going to strengthen the hair, and then you're going to hydrate the hair. Whenever the hair is strong and hydrated, what happens is that cuticle is very compact over the cortical fibers. And so the hair, even though it's spiral, it has a very smooth surface to it. So it's not tearing easily. It's not breaking easily. It's not, so you're not losing those hairs and forming those knots. The second thing is, when that hair is hydrated, then it doesn't dry up and it doesn't literally fall apart. Now, what are these knots that we're speaking of? And you guys are calling the fairy knots and those kinds of things. These knots are basically, and let's see if I'm just going to, guys, I'm going to have to change my headset because I just can't hear me. And when I can't hear me, that just makes things harder for me, which means I'm going to have to put on this over the top of my fro. And you know how much I hate doing that, but we're going to have to do that. Okay. And okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, let's see if I can get to this monitor where I can see my hair. There we go. You know, they can't see the back, so niece is trying to help me, y'all. You know, she's gotten quite good at this hair thing. She has gotten, since she's, you know, doing so much better. And today she's got her hair all twisted up. So I don't know if she's been quite that good, but maybe she has. Okay, all right, so I can't see. Well, that's not too bad. This is kind of cute, right, niece? Okay, cool. Okay, all right. So where do these little knots come from? Okay, what happens with the strand? Your strand will start. This is what happens. You have your natural shedding. So when your natural shedding occurs, that hair tries to fall away and shed away from the head. That's a natural part of the growth cycle. And you should see a little hair bulb on the end. The other thing is, once the natural shedding occurs, then if you have, remember we talked about weak, so you need the protein, deep conditioning, weak, dehydrated hair, so dry hair, then what happens, the hair will lift and tear easily and peel. So those layers will fall into that shedding hair, and it creates this little knot as it tries to fall away from your head. It mostly happens with kinky or curly hair. And so then once it forms, it won't form if you're deep conditioning, and if the second thing, and I'm going to mention in a minute, once it forms, it just continues like, you know how you have something, you've seen these cartoons where things roll down the hill, hey, and then it just gets bigger and bigger ball. So as it gets toward the end of your hair, it may have started out as a little kink or a little tangle, but as it rolls down the hair, it picks up other layers, and then it creates this ball. And so at the end, now you have this little locked knot that, and if you have locks and you want locks, that's great. But if you're not intending to have locks, that's a problem. So now you have this little knot. And so then at that point, you've lost the appropriate amount of elasticity required to really hold that together, and it just falls off. So the way to prevent that, I mentioned the deep conditioning. So you got to get under the dryer with your conditioner at least once a week, and you want a conditioner that has protein as well as moisture. That's going to be crucial. And then you want to have, second, you want to dress your hair for bed properly. If you do not dress your hair for bed properly, you're going to have a problem with, let's move this out of the way, you're going to have a problem with those little knots, because they're going to just continue to increase, because your hair is going to web, which is going to look like a spider web, and then it's going to mat and then lock. And that's because the hair on the right side of the part is crossing over to the hair on the left side of the part. And it can only happen if you do not dress your hair for bed properly. That means you got to twist the hair and layer hair products into your strand. And then you have to deep condition. Okay, so Gail, I hope that helps. If you're doing well and you've got these tight curls, I understand that, but you can still manage their hair without having those problems. Okay? Alrighty, now let's go back and let's get to our outline. Okay, we have this here, and our phone lines are open at 901-535-9342. That's 901-535-9342. And I'm Trichologist Lisa Akbari, and I'm going to be your hair doctor for about 40 more minutes here. And of course, you can always email me if you have additional questions for me. Let's see if we can't close this one out. And then, yeah, there it's our outline. Okay. So let's talk about hair dehydration. What is it? Hair dehydration is when your actual strand and your hair and scalp heat dehydration is when your actual, first we'll start with hair strand, your moisture levels drop to the point and literally bottom out, where the hair begins to feel rough, dry, and brittle, and you start to see the breakage. Scalp dehydration is the same thing. Your moisture levels will bottom out. You'll get an itchy scalp, flaky scalp, and sometimes even tender scalp. So those are things, that's really what it is. It's where your moisture levels have literally bottom out. They've gone so low that the skin is now it's really in what we call first degree damage. And the hair is beginning to literally fall apart. Where does it come from? And I mentioned earlier, one of the things that what causes it is just the lack of deep conditioning of the hair, the lack of the balance of protein and moisture. There's a delicate protein and moisture level within the shaft that must stay balanced. Let's go to our phone lines. Hello and welcome to Ask the Hair Doctor. You have a question for me? I'm well. Thank you for calling today. How are you? I did have a happy birthday, a peaceful birthday. You guys, I just don't know how all of y'all knew my birthday. Even Mark over there knew my birthday. I try to keep a secret. Oh, that's right. I remember you. I remember you. Thank you. Well, this is what I tell you. The question was, is it good to use the same product all the time, or should you mix them up, or can you mix them up without being a problem? Okay. All right. You're welcome. Okay. So that was the question. So now, no, it's not a problem to use the same product. This is what you've got to look at. And I always say several things. Number one, you want apples for apples. Okay. If you have, oops, I forgot to drop the call. Sorry, guys. You want apples for apples. You want to make sure that if you got the same product and you're using that same product, if you decide you want to move to a different product, it's not a problem, but you want to make sure it's going to perform the same way. Okay. The second thing is you want to look at what's the basic need of your products. What's your hair? What does your hair and scalp need? And that's how you decide on the product. Your hair doesn't get accustomed to a product or allergic to a product. It's not going to do that. Your hair is basically dead keratinized cells. So those dead keratinized cells are basically just needing to be protected and preserved. So when you use a hair product, you are wanting to let's speak about hair and we'll speak about your scalp. Hair first, you want to, again, balance the protein and moisture level. You want that product to be clean. A lot of reasons why a lot of people have to change up products because they're not using clean products. Now let's talk about some examples of some products that aren't clean. If you use a shampoo, your shampoo should clarify. It should remove basically surface buildup. And it shouldn't hydrate. Your shampoo shouldn't hydrate. It should just clean. When you use a shampoo that hydrates, basically what you have is a shampoo that is going to cause a cosmetic pollutant to rest on the surface of your hair as well as on the surface of your scalp. And then you're going to cause a buildup. It's going to begin to solidify on your scalp and on your hair. So that's not a clean product. You want to get your moisture from your conditioners and your leave-in conditioners. I know that we use hydrating shampoos, those of you who use them, because hydrating shampoos detangle, make the hair feel soft. I understand, but that's short term. Long term, over a period of time, it's going to cause a negative effect. I view that under the microscope all the time, and I know that a lot of patients who are using these products have a problem. So it's not that you need to change your product. You just need to make sure that your shampoo is clean. And then you need to make sure your conditioners are clean. You need to make sure your conditioners are protein and moisture, not just protein, because protein is going to dehydrate, and that causes hair and scalp dehydration or hair dehydration. So you want to make sure you have a moisture with the protein. As I was saying earlier, there's a delicate protein and moisture level within the hair shaft that must stay balanced. If that stays balanced, then you're fine. Your hair is going to be strong and hydrated. So then you don't have to have a product that you use over and over again, or change products rather. And one of the ways you know it's clean is you also, when it rinses, you should have a water shampoo. You should have a nice squeaky clean. When you rinse your conditioner, it shouldn't feel slimy. It should feel nice and clean. So those are things you look for. So no, it's not a problem to stay with the same product. You just have to make sure that your products are clean. So hopefully I answered that question from one of my regulars. I got to get your name too when you call back next time, because I want to call you by name, because I appreciate you tuning in every Sunday with me and having hair talk. It's so important to ladies. It's important to men as well. So men, you're out there, and I know you guys called great. It was great during Father's Day, but it's okay for you to call today. It's no problem, no worries. Come on and call. Okay, so let's talk about how we can prevent that. We talked about the ways to prevent it. Now we talked about the deep conditioning on hair and scalp dehydration. One of the ways we can prevent hair and scalp dehydration is number one, daily hydrating. If you have hair and scalp dehydration, then your strands are going to, it's going to be harder for your strands to retain the moisture. So until that repair work is done from your deep conditioning, you have to daily hydrate your hair. And then think about it. You can dissipate, that product can dissipate if it's a clean product, because the molecular weight, the molecules that make up that product, they're small. They're going to go into the hair, do what they need to do, and then they could possibly dissipate. You want that. You want your leave-in products to do that. So you have to reapply them every day, depending on what part of the world you're living in. Because if you're really dry climate, then you're going to have to really be careful, because you're going to dry out all the time. And so you want to make sure you daily moisture, and then you can seal in your moisture with a light oil. So that is one of the ways to prevent. Let's see. We said, does it have anything to do with what we eat and drink? No. Honestly, whatever we put in our mouth does affect our body. But when you speak of surface, hair strand being dry, so you notice what you want to look for. You want to look at your hair that's emerging from your scalp, and you want to compare it. You want to compare it with the hair that's on the body of your shaft. See which area is the driest. Is it drier at the scalp, or is it drier in the body of the shaft? That's going to help us to tell you, that's going to indicate where that dehydration is coming from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, did we lose feed? I'm going to go back to I think we're there, phone lines, and let's get a caller in. Hello, and welcome to Ask the Hair Doctor. You have a question for me? Hello? I don't think so. We dropped that caller. You can call back, caller. I don't know what happened, but we lost you there. Okay. All right. So that's what we have to look at. So if the body, what you put in your body, if it's certain medications that you take, your hair can grow from your scalp drier. And if that's the case, then you can offset that dryness by increasing your moisture levels, high numbers of them. And one of the products that I recommend, that I have on my website, you can go to my website at lisaakbari.com. And let me give my phone line, because my telephone number to my institute, because I didn't do that much last week, and some of you were wanting that number. It's 901-380-4445. And that's 901-380-4445. That's my number to the institute. Someone will be in on tomorrow, Monday. But today, if you want to call in and ask me a question, you can call 901-535-9342. And that's 901-535-WDIA. And I'm here on WDIA Radio today. I'm really excited about being a part of this Sunday lineup. And you can download the iHeart app for free. And you can always get me on this on Sunday, every Sunday from 9. No, I was going to say 9 today. What's wrong with me? Every Sunday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And again, caller, I'm sorry I lost you there, but you can call back at 901-535-9342 if you have a question for me. Okay, all right, so we were talking about, yes, and medication. Medication can indirectly cause, sometimes medication can cause direct or indirect problems with your hair. But as it relates to dehydration, it's more of an indirect. It's like what happens, the cells begin to dry out that form the hair, and the hair grows out as its birth dry and dehydrated. So once the hair emerges from your scalp, you have to daily, there's a product on my site called Hydration. Hydration will keep your moisture level up, and then you will have, that hair will use it up every day, but you won't just reapply it on a daily basis. And you want to do that during the times that you're taking this medication, because you're just going to need it. And it's just one of those things that sometimes certain meds will cause that problem. And also deep conditioning, again, I can't stress that enough. It does actually help. Okay, and then someone says, are vitamins helpful? Vitamins, it depends on the vitamin itself. Like, you have many people taking biotin, and I hear all of my patients are like, well, I take a vitamin that has biotin in it. Well, biotin is important because biotin forms keratin, and keratin is what the hair is mostly composed of. So it's crucial to have biotin in your vitamin if you're taking a vitamin for hair. But we have to make sure that's an internal or external issue. Biotin and supplements that support the follicle they're basically going to support the follicle as it's developing a hair. And that helps, that's important. But most of this dehydration that you're seeing is on the hair shaft once it's outside and exposed to the elements. So you're exposed, you're dehydrated, or things that you're doing to the hair. So you have to apply conditioners and leave-in conditioners, moisturizers, sealing with oils. You have to do those things and watch certain things like your dryer time. You have to do all those things, and I'm going to speak on that a little bit more in a second. You have to do those things, and those are external things. You have to really balance that, because hair is just dead keratinized cells, which means it's very dry. And your scalp your sebaceous glands can secrete this oil that will give you a nice seal over the hair. But in many cases, especially with kinky hair type, by the time it makes it down that spiral, it just doesn't seem to really make it down the spiral. So you really have to add these support products like moisturizers and oils and products that are going to keep the hair hydrated. I mentioned we were talking about vitamin supplements. So what happens with supplements, they basically support your follicle as it's developing the hair, but it has very little directly to do with how dry your hair is. So you can take the vitamins, drinking water, that's another one that we wanted to know. Will that help to hydrate my hair? It helps to hydrate your cells, the cells that develop the hair. So yes, it could help, but not for what we're doing. See, we're using heated tools, burning our hair. So now we have dry hair because of that, weak and dry. We're sitting on the dryer extended periods of time with our rod sets or our roller sets. That dehydrates the hair and scalp. We're doing all these external things. We're keeping our hair dirty. We're not deep conditioning. We're co-washing. We're no-pooing. All these things dehydrate your hair. So we have to change those external things first. And once we change those external things, then we will have less chances of our hair dehydrating. And we talked about the balance of the protein and moisture is so crucial. I have some questions, and I know we want to get to celebrity here and talk about, I mentioned, was it David Bowie? And then it was someone else. I think it was John Lennon who sold, whose locks were sold. And it was a pretty price for that, okay? And so we're going to get to that in a second as well. But let's get a question. And again, my phone lines are open at 901-535-9342. That's 901-535-9342. We've got so much going on in this country. So I do understand that you guys are probably glued to the television and paying attention to what's out there. But, if you want to break and just kind of chat with me and just, we're just going to love on each other and just pray and say, Lord, help us, and just know that we cannot, we just cannot worry about this. We just get busy praying and get busy loving people and stop the violence. We gotta find a way. And it's just, I'm not going to speak on it because I'm not going to turn my show into a show about what's happening out there. But I want to tell you, it is heavy on my heart, and I know it's heavy on yours. But if you want to chat with me about here, I'm right here. Okay, and for the next 30 minutes or so, I will be here chatting with you. Okay, all right, so let's see. We have a question that says, I have relaxed hair, and I wear a rinse to cover my little white friends that are hanging around my hairline. And so Niecy's trying to take a picture. I don't know why she think I could just have dead air like that. Okay, let's see. And she said, it seems like lately my hair has been shedding a lot. I see it on my comb, all over my bathroom floor. And then she has help, ! Well, I think that's crucial that we, I think it's really, really important that we really look at what shedding and breakage is, because sometimes we're calling breakage shedding and shedding breakage. Let's talk about what that is first, so before we try and answer that question. Let's make sure I want to cover all the bases. She's got relaxed hair, she's wearing a rinse, and she's losing hair. Now, she thinks it's shedding. Shedding is a natural part of the growth cycle. So the hair itself can shed. It can shed. You can, it grows, and that's something called the anagen stage. So that's the growth stage. And then you have the resting or shedding, resting stage, transition stage, and then, or the catagen, and then you have the telogen, which is the shedding stage, okay? So your hair can shed and will shed, but let me tell you how you will know the difference. The difference in your shedding and your breakage, you will know because you have a hair bulb on the end. The hair bulb is that little club-like tissue on, no side shots, Niecy. It's that little club-like tissue on the end of your strand. So that club-like tissue is going to just be there. You'll feel it. You just go down your strand, you'll feel that little on the end. And if that's there, that's shedding. And that could be a natural process. So what I would suggest is that you save your strands. Any of you, all of you out there, if you're losing hair, if you're seeing more hair on your comb and you're seeing hair, you want to just save it in a Ziploc bag and just give yourself about a week's worth. And then we're going to talk about reading those strands, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. Okay, now breakage will not have the club-like tissue, and you can have long strands. I've had people say, you know what, I have really long strands, and that must be shedding. Well, not necessarily. You can have a long strand and it's a full layer. It's just off the top of the strand, and that all comes from hair dehydration. When you have your cortex, which is where your strength bonds are, and it really is the area that it really helps to retain your moisture level. When all of those are invaded or violated with a relaxer, then you're going to have a situation where you may, in fact, start to break. Your strands will separate, and you'll begin to lose layers. So that'll be a long strand, and you'll think that is a strand that came from your scalp, when in fact it's just a layer that maybe started at the hair close to the scalp and worked all the way down to that end. So, it just depends. Now, that is not shedding, but it's breakage. So she's probably breaking, and based on what she's saying. Now, why is this happening? She's wearing a relaxer, she's wearing a rinse. Why is she losing hair? Out of balance. Simply out of balance. There's things that I want you to keep in mind. One, if you're roller setting your hair, you want to look at your dryer time. Once you and your roller set and what you're using. Let's start with that. You've shampooed, you've deep conditioned, because we know we've talked about that. Now you're going to have your stylist roller set your hair, or you're going to roller set it. And then what you want to do is a leave-in product that's going to give you a little bit of protein, but you're going to hydrate. But before you put that on, I want you to towel blot your hair to remove that excess water. Because what that's going to do is that's going to allow you to dry faster. The other piece is you want to make sure you're not using setting tools that harden the cuticle. Here's we did those sculpting setting styles, but I have a product called Sculptor Set, which is a setting lotion, but it does not dry you out. So that's going to be a product that's going to give you some conditioning, but it's not going to dry you out. So you've got to remove the excess water. First, you deep condition, you remove the excess water after rinsing, and then you're ready to roll the set. You're using a leave-in conditioner that's light, that's going to give you some protein, some moisture, and then you're using a setting lotion that is going to give you a nice firm set, or soft, but firm set, but yet and still soft enough to run your fingers through. And then you're going to get on the dryer. And this is where you can really save your hair. When you get under the dryer, you want to start out with a cool dryer. Now, your hair will dry on cool, but not completely. So if you're sitting under the dryer an hour, I say take 30 minutes of that, and that should be on cool. Then slowly, when you get to that 23-minute mark, 24, 25, you turn it up to warm. So you want to raise the temperature. Don't go higher than medium setting, because you don't want to go higher than 60 degrees. You want to turn that up on medium, and then you want to start letting it slowly warm up. And then you can sit under for another 20, I wouldn't say an hour, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And your hair will dry. Now, here's the key. Once you sat under for 30 minutes under cool, then you're going to go back and you're going to sit under the dryer. It's going to be warm the first 10 minutes. After that first 10 minutes, you're going to turn the rollers in the opposite direction. And what that's going to do is allow a little bit of air to go under that roller. Like if you roll the hair towards you, you're going to rotate it the opposite direction. We call it roller rotation. And then every 10 minutes until you complete that 30 minutes, you're going to allow that hair to rotate. Rotate, roller, rotate. And that's going to really solve a lot of that problem of dryness. So hair and scalp dehydration can cause problems. You can have problems. And why is she having problems now and not before? Because you're layering these things to your hair. First, you've got a relaxer, which disturbs the protein and moisture levels. And then you put a rinse on. Even though it's a semi-permanent rinse, maybe a demi, so it's low chemical or no chemical, your moisture levels still change. So you have to balance that continuously. And you always have to be aware of your environment. If you're under the dryer, you have a dry environment for your hair shaft. See, the only thing for your hair to do once your top hair, which dries first, that hair starts to dry while you're waiting for the hair that's closer to your scalp or in that tighter roller to dry. The only thing for that hair on the top to do is dry out, and that's called dehydration. So You can't go past dry. After that, it dries out. All right, so this should help. You can email me, lisa@lisaakbari.com, and I can give you a program that you can follow, a program to recondition your hair. And that will help you a lot. Tremendous. We have another question. She said, I have 2 little girls, and they are both active swimmers during the summertime. It seems like no matter what I put on their hair, it still looks and feels dry. What can I do to make their hair feel soft and have more sheen? That's a very good question. And there are swimmers. Number 1, you have to remove the chlorine every time you swim. This is what this is what kids, for years, when our kids started swimming, we did not do well with that. Some moms are doing better, but you have to remove it. Not tomorrow, not the next day, not the end of the week, but in a few, when they get home from the pool, you have to shampoo. And you have to use a clarifier. So you want lots of rinsing. So if they're swimming every day, they have swimming lessons every day or whatever, you have to shampoo it every day. Lots of rinsing, 1 drop of shampoo because you're removing for the day. Put that shampoo clarifier with a pH of 4.5 to 5.5. Let it sit for about 60 seconds while they finish their shower, and then rinse. Put the conditioner on for 60 seconds, protein and moisture. Let it sit and rinse. And then put all their leave-in products. Layer. You got to layer. Leave-in conditioner. I would recommend my hair vitamin. It's on my website at lisaakbari.com. Moisture Plus. That's another product that I would recommend. And then oil sheen in a jar. Those 3 are going. And then you're ready to plait the hair up or pull it back in a scrunchie or put it in a ponytail, whatever you want to do, and they'll be fine. That will help the hair. It won't be dry. It'll feel good. And if they have extremely dry hair, you would use the hair vitamins, the hydration, and then the oil. Because the hydration is going to, wow, you're going to love it. It feels so soft. And I love doing it because I have my frizzy froze a lot. Your shampoo and go days a lot. You can do shampoo and go with your babies too if they have natural hair, and it'll be wonderful. Okay, we have another question. She said, my husband wears his hair shaved down low. Lately, it seems like his scalp is really flaking. Okay, we have a phone call. Let's go to our phone lines, and we'll get back to our question. Hello, and welcome to Ask the Hair Doctor. Do you have a question for me? Hi there. Okay. Uh-huh. Well, our hair on our head, the follicles on our face. This is a gentleman. Thank you for calling. The question was, and I wanted my callers online to hear the question. It said he has hair on his head and then on his face, but the hair on your head is thinner than the hair on your face. Okay, and you want to know why? Okay, all right. So, do you want to hang up and I'll answer the question? Okay, all right, right. Okay, now let's see. There we go. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is very important, and this is a great question. 2 things. Number 1, the hair follicles on your scalp are different from the hair follicles on your face. Not that much different, but they are different. In other words, the hair follicles on your face are slightly smaller, and so they're going to produce a hair that's going to grow differently. The other thing that you can, so that means that hair, now you've seen people with really long beards, and that's genetics, part of it, but part of it is because your follicle, the hair on your beard will grow, not as long as the hair on your head, but it will grow. Okay, it will grow longer than, say, hair on your arm or places like that. But at first, it depends on the follicle. Now, you can have a follicle that's very curved and very spiral on your scalp, but the one that's curved on your face is not as curved. Those things will determine how your hair looks and how kinky that hair is. The other piece is how you cleanse your hair on your head and and your face. Most people wash their face a lot. They wash it every day. Most people. Now but they don't really moisturize their beard. If you wash your face daily, you have to moisturize your beard. Your beard hair is going to look wiry and thicker and even unruly if you do not moisturize it. If you're washing your face daily, and you need to wash your face daily. The hair on your head is going to actually be more hydrated in some cases because most people are piling moistures and oils on every day. The other piece you have to keep in mind is that the hair on your scalp is going to function differently. Like you have things like male pattern baldness. It doesn't affect the follicles on your beard. It will affect the follicles on your scalp. So there you'll have thinner hair. You'll have hairs that may be going through the transition of where they're, instead of just being a terminal hair, they become what we call a transition hair. So they're beginning to get smaller. Then they may become a villus hair. That means the miniaturization process is going on. So then they're getting even smaller. So that is going to determine sometimes how thick the hair is on the head. So those things are functioning different. You treat them different. The follicles function a little different. So all those things make a difference in how the hair on your face feels and how thick it is and how the hair feels and how thick it is on your head. No worries. Just make sure when you're you're working with your face so that you won't have the ingrown hairs on the beard. When you wash your face, you want to hydrate your hair, your beard. On your head, if you have your thinning and in other words, your density, the hairs per square inch are decreasing in numbers, then you want to make sure that you have an examination to determine if that's male pattern baldness or not. A trichologist such as myself and those of you who are having those problems, and you can come to my institute, you can call tomorrow at 901-380-4445 and schedule an appointment, and I'll do a microscopic and physical examination of your hair and scalp, and I'll tell you whether there's female pattern or male pattern baldness or some other type of alopecia that can be treated. So those are the things that you want to really think about as it relates to your hair. That was a great question. Thank you so much for calling in. And again, you can call my institute tomorrow if you want to schedule an appointment to come in for me to examine your hair and scalp. And that's 901-380-4445, and that's called a hair and scalp analysis. But today, if you have a question for me, you can chat with me under Lisa Akbari product if you're online streaming with me, or you can call 901-535-9342, and that's 901-535-9342. Yes. You know, guys, it's storming out here today. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. Oh, I'm not going to turn the screen toward that window because it is really stormy. Let's see. Let's go. Let's see if we've got on our chat. We've got our phone lines, and then we're going to get back to that question that I had. We have a little more time left. Okay. All right. So Nisha's got our telephone number and the name of my institute up on the chat board. If you guys want that, you can definitely use it. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our questions. All right. Here we go. And the question was about her husband and shaving. Oh, and she said, lately it seems like his scalp is really flaking. And what do I think? The thing that we have to keep in mind, men out there who are shaving their head, you have to keep in mind, you've got to be careful. Because when you shave, you want to make sure it stays nice and clean, right? And I know you don't want the nubs, the little 5 o'clock shadow on your scalp. That means where it starts to grow out. So many try to get a really close shave. But I would recommend that you think about shaving your head every day or twice a day if you're getting those nubs, but using something very different. The reason why many men get the flakes when they shave their head is because their epidermis is being disturbed. So what's happening, either they're using a straight razor or they're using the razor that they would use to shave their beard. And what they're doing is they're cutting or actually nicking or just shaving off just a little bit of that epidermis, and just enough, the cornea layer, just enough to disturb that renewing process. So you have to be really, really careful. So what happens is the skin just goes on the defense and it basically peels to heal. So it just peels more and it dries it out because your epidermis can have its weight in moisture, but it's got to be healthy. And when you're scraping on the epidermis at all times with a straight razor or a razor that you shave with, then you're going to be scraping and drying out and disturbing the renewing process. Now, I said early on before that you could remove that hair twice a day or once a day. Well, you have to use something a little more gentle. The only way you can do that is by using an electric razor. Remember the old school electric razors? That's what you want to use on your head. Just go to your local stores. They sell them everywhere. And you just get an electric razor. And that's what you want to use. And then you want to make sure that you are hydrating the hair with a moisturizer daily. You want to make sure of that, because when you do that, you're going to have a better chance of that skin staying nice and soft. And when you're ready to shave again, you're not going to have those problems. So just try that, guys. I've got it on my website. It's called For Men Only. So you can go to my website at lisaakbari.com, and that is going to give you more information about men and shading and all those kinds of things. Okay, we've got to get to this because we only have about 3 minutes left. And I promise you I will talk to you about celebrity hair and the celebrities who sold their hair. I don't think they sold it. I think it was just, someone else did it. But we still start with David Bowie. Okay, David Bowie, just a few weeks ago, a lock of David Bowie's hair was sold for 14,000 pounds. It was only expected to sell for about 4,000 pounds, but it sold for 14,000 pounds. Oh my goodness. Wow. And earlier this year, a lock of John Lennon's hair sold for 35,000 pounds. Wow. Okay. Don't think that'll happen to me and you, niece. What you think? I don't think so. Nobody want my hair. Okay, well, guys, we're pretty much out of time. You said I got nice hair. I have wonderful hair, but I don't think anybody's going to want to pay 14,000 pounds for my hair, or 35,000, or
get a little richer.
I gotta get a little more famous, right? Yeah. Well, I'm not giving it. So I want my hair to go in that casket with me, and I don't want anybody selling it. Not that you'll want to buy it. Okay. All right, guys. This has been a great show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be here next week. What are we going to talk about next week? Next week's topic, working out and keeping your hairstyle. That's huge. Working out and keeping your hairstyle. A lot of folks just can't seem to do that. But we're going to show you how, and you're not going to just have to wear braids, okay? There's a lot of things I'm going to teach you, so make sure you tune in. I'm Lisa Akbari, your hair doctor, and I'll see you next week. To God be the glory in Jesus, and pray for our city, our country, and our world. I'll see you next week right here on Ask the Hair Doctor.
Lisa. Somebody made an account with the boy name on it to kill people, right? And somebody said Trump supporters made the account.
They
said,
oh wow, let's get off
so they
the air.